Hi, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome. Today, I am interviewing Lisa Manyon, the business marketing architect. Did I say that right?
You said that right.
It's a
That
mouth.
is true.
But Lisa is in Ashland, Oregon.
Yes, I am, and I
And
love it here.
I'm in beautiful Amish country, Lancaster County, and it's about 65 degrees today. It's nice and warm for October, no, November. So, today we're going to be talking about marketing. We're going to talk about integrity. We're going to talk about, you know what? Who knows? We're just going to let it roll and see where it goes from there. So, hopefully that's fair for the viewers, and hopefully it's fair for Lisa. Some of these Google Hangouts, I really don't plan. I just see where it goes. So, if we make a mistake, we make a mistake. That's the beauty of this. It's real. So, welcome, Lisa. And the first question I have is why integrity?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, basically, values are highly important to me. And I think that when we base everything that we do on our values, then that helps to strengthen our integrity, which I think is hugely important in everything that we do. So, uh, just to be very transparent, that isn't always the case in the marketing, advertising, and copywriting arena, unfortunately. And I'm lucky to connect with individuals such as yourself who have been doing this for a very long time. We've both been around for a couple decades now. Just, yeah, a little bit of time. And so I just decided to really start talking about it several years ago because it was, before it became a buzzword, much like the word authenticity, it was something people weren't talking about. There was a lot of bait and switch going on still, and that still does happen today. It's becoming less and less prevalent, but I just decided to take a stand for doing the right thing for people and helping them get the results that they want the right way from the beginning, as opposed to, I don't know, experiencing some of the people that perhaps are not really acting in integrity.
And both of us have been in this industry long enough to know that there are people out there that don't act in integrity. Even some of the speakers. I'm not going to name names or point fingers, but there are people out there that get on stage and just try to sell, 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 and that's not integrity. That, to me, that's just selling a product. That's not really getting your heart and soul and feeling behind something. We're trying to, in the spirit of relationship building, have anything to do with integrity.
Well, that's exactly right. And I don't name names either. And in fact, it's interesting when I started teaching, my methodology, and really everything started gelling, and I created my marketing and copywriting formula for success, which really is just a framework to help people create copy, which is your marketing, the content remarketing messages, in case people don't know that are tuning in. But I created that and started sharing that framework so people could create those marketing messages with integrity as an alternative approach. And what was really interesting is I created a program, and it's been many years ago now, called How to Create Marketing Messages with Integrity, Attract Your Ideal Clients with Your Authentic Voice. And now tons of people are claiming to be so authentic, and integrity is being thrown around like a buzzword. But the reason that I initially created that, before people really jumped on the bandwagon and started using all those terms, was because people were stuck. They were being taught the problem, agitate, and solve approach, and it didn't feel good to them. And poking at the pain points didn't feel good to them. And while I definitely agree that we need to know what our ideal clients or our prime prospects' problem is, when you know what that problem is, I don't think that it is acting with integrity if you just poke at those pain points with the pure intent to make the sale. It actually perpetuates buyer's remorse. And I think that's kind of what you were speaking to, because you build trust. That's what you do when you work with your clients. You want to have a long-term relationship, or complete a project and have them trust you enough to come back and share your information with friends. And that's really where I was coming from. And it's been interesting because, hanging your hat on the word integrity, people begin to pass some judgment, right? And so that's been an interesting it's been an interesting experience for me, because people are saying, oh, if you say you have integrity, you must not have integrity. And so I just kind of laugh about that, because you know what? I'm not even actually saying that I have integrity. We all do. Every single one of us has integrity. It's based on our individual values. And all I'm doing is offering a framework for people to wrap their minds around a really simple way to address the challenge of their prime prospects, to offer a solution from a place of service and real value, and then to empower them with the right information so they can choose to do business with you. None of the pushy hard sell tactics, and just really, honestly, just keeping it real. I mean, I think that's what business is all about. We go back to the basics and we look at the trust factor and building those relationships, and people can tell when you're full of it.
You know, one of the things that I do is I tell people I'm a trust creator. I teach companies how to instill trust in not only their employees, but also their customers, their clients. And I had one person says to me that, oh, that's kind of hokey, isn't it? That whole trust thing. Nobody does that anymore. You know, and the thing is that the more I preach it, the more I realize that trust kind of went out the window in the 60s and 70s. I think along with common sense. You know, and that's the reason why that I wrote the Business Dojo is that it was completely different. Yeah, that book right there. It was completely different than the technology books that I've written in the past because it contained a lot of the common sense that people are lacking today. But it's that common sense that builds in, you know, on our values, that gives us integrity, that makes us trustworthy to people. And I think it's those values that companies, entrepreneurs especially, need to bring back into their business. It's not always about selling. It's about building those relationships so that people can feel comfortable with what you're doing, with who you are, with your product, your service, with the whole package. And, you know, it's not always about, hey, Mrs. Jones, I got this new thing that you really need to have. No, it's about, hey, how are you? You know, and go from there. I think we've lost that whole ability to be real to people anymore.
Well, you know, it's coming back, and I'm glad you said that. First, I want to say something about your book. I was super excited. It came in the mail yesterday, so I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I skimmed through it, of course, quickly, and thank you for the nice note and for autographing that for me, because I have a whole shelf of books from my trusted friends and colleagues that are signed that I just really treasure, so thank you for that. And I just found it so refreshing that this book was really about the basic principles of being a person and being a good person, right? And I loved your other books too, don't get me wrong, but this one really excited me, so I can't wait to dig in and read it. So I forgot what I was going to say after that, but I wanted to make sure I touched on that. This is great. I'm just going to be transparent. I had a really great point to make. It'll come back to me.
Hey, you know, that's the beauty of this. These whole conversations that I have are about trying to bring the real people, the real person inside of us out. And
oh yeah, okay. So here, speaking of real people, it came back. You sparked it for me. So I think we are going back to basics. It's actually something that I've been observing for quite some time, and I think people are getting so oversaturated online. And I'm not saying that online isn't important, because you know that I believe it is, and I get a majority of my business from online interactions. However, we are circling back to basics, and what I'm seeing is a increase in community hubs and people really wanting to do business in the local market, which is super important, and also important online because of the local search, and you know, that's your expertise, not really mine. But what is part of my expertise is helping some of the smaller businesses in the local arena do what they need to do and market what they need to market and do it extremely well. And I'm excited to kind of be circling back and bringing in all of my experience from the advertising agency days, and you know, everything that I have in my toolkit to help them succeed. And the other piece of that I see happening is that people are getting fed up with the superficiality and the lack of connection. And so I've actually declared that we're in what I'm calling the collaboration economy, where people are the true currency. I mean, we're not numbers, we're people. That's why we're having a conversation. I mean, I don't know, we met over, I think, 10 years ago. And when you first interviewed me years ago, it was when publicity was my entry point. And I was really helping people with publicity and PR. And I still do some of that for my private clients. But it's just fun to see how we both kind of...
You know, and when I first interviewed you, I still had a cleaning service and I was launching my consulting service.
Right, that's right.
And so I've gotten out of the cleaning. You know, I'm full-time coaching with people. It's exciting. This whole field is exciting. But in the same respect, it's also scary for people because they see and they're told that you have to automate everything. You have to make your life, you know, an automated thing so that when people call you, all their questions are answered. Well, now you're taking the human element out of the whole equation. You're taking integrity, you're taking trust, you're throwing it out the window. You're saying, you know what? Just wait till the next email comes out. That'll give you all the instructions. Just follow that. Don't call me until you've done all these steps. Well, by that time, you've worn the person out. All they want is a simple phone call, and you don't even want to take it.
And you know, that's interesting. We have a little bit of a different perspective on that because I really do love to talk to people, but they do have to schedule and they have to jump through a few hoops, but they're not really outrageous hoops. You know, really people need to be a part of my Right On Creative community, and then they can schedule a complimentary 15-minute Get Connected call. It's a laser call because I do want people to be super clear on what's going on with them. Even if they're just having a challenge, I want them to know what it is so that I can hone in and give them the best solution in that time and see if we're even a fit, because I think that's something that's important too. If I'm doing one-on-one work, which is the majority of my work, even though I've got the online self-study courses and things like that, it's got to be an absolute great fit, and I have to believe 100% in what they're doing. So they better be doing something to make the world a better place, or clearly right there you can self-select and we won't play very well together. But so people can reach out to me and connect with me in that way when they're a part of my community, or when they've been referred by preferred referral partners. So Rob, you send someone my way, they get VIP treatment because I know they're pre-qualified. I know you're not going to, send me someone that's not going to be fun to play with. So it's interesting. We do have to set up some velvet ropes in some cases, but having those conversations is extremely important. And I value my community, and I value that they trust me to come into their inbox because, quite frankly, people are inundated with information.
Right, and I'm not telling people that automation is bad, because there you're using it to pre-qualify somebody.
Right.
What I'm talking about is those companies who, automate everything to a T, and the customer, the client, has no physical person to talk to. Everything is done electronically,
right.
with via email or via, Infusionsoft or Entreport, or all these automated emails. They're great for certain things, but I still think that they take the human element out of it.
They do, and I like that you're bringing that up, because what I'm actually finding is a lot of clients who set things up in sort of the set it and forget it manner, which I know is sort of a hot button for both of us, and that you can't really ever do that. But they're coming to me and saying, so Lisa, we've got everything automated and set up, and we followed the formula. We've got the pain points in our copy. We've got all this stuff done, and it's not working. And so I think it's very interesting that many people are course correcting and looking at what was taught several years ago and saying, oh, this doesn't really work for me, because it doesn't, and it doesn't work for their clients. And so I'm helping people make really small shifts that are creating very big impact to get better results. And a lot of it is simply softening their copy, their messaging, and their content a bit, so that it's not over the top. It's not demanding someone do business with you. It's educating and engaging and informing and really bringing their personality into it and getting them way better results. And I just had a really cool session with a client the other day, and she said to me, thank you so much for getting me and for listening to me and for actually understanding what it is that I want to do and say, because she'd been being advised by all of these other, I'm gonna do the air quote thing, experts, to do things that didn't feel right to her, and then in turn didn't feel right to her ideal clients. And I often tell people that they need to trust their intuition around that. Just because someone claims that they are an expert, or even if they're not claiming it, even if they've been touted a guru by others, or they've been teaching something for a very long time, doesn't mean that it's the right thing anymore. And it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be challenged, and it doesn't mean that it's going to work for your business. So that's why I'm excited about what I teach and share, because I found out what wasn't working by people coming to me and sharing those challenges with me and saying, Lisa, this isn't working, and me helping with them with small shifts, and then getting really great results. And people who haven't even done work with me, just reading the articles about my challenge solution invitation formula, are getting massive results. They haven't even, I actually get really excited about this. They haven't even invested money with me, but I get information back from them saying, you helped me increase my business just by reading your information. And I get really excited, and people go, oh, Lisa, you've got to maximize, your revenue on that. How are you making money if you're just sharing information and they're getting results? I'm like, I don't even care. I'm almost more excited about that than my paying clients. Not really, because I still have to pay the bills, but you know what I mean? It's like, it makes you feel good to know you're doing the right thing, and to know that people are truly benefiting and getting value from the work you're creating. And honestly, after creating this large body of work, I've been blogging for almost 10 years now. I have so much info out there now. The fact that people are taking it upon themselves to go and read the blog posts and implement and move forward, that makes me happy. That just brings me great joy.
One of the things that I get from people is I tell them, you got to blog, and they're like, I just don't have time for it, or that there's so much information out there. What's my little blog going to help? And you'd be surprised that once you start blogging, and you don't have to blog every day, you can blog once a month, but at least get your voice out there to show people who you are, what you stand for, what your products are, how they can help people. I think that whole blogging is so overwhelming to people because they got to spend a half hour to write something down and then put it out there.
Well, and they get overwhelmed, Rob, because so many people are sharing so much information about the value of content marketing and all of the different platforms where you can repurpose your content. They're not realizing that you can actually create a blog post and then create a strategic plan around that one message and create everything from there. So what happens is, I think people get overwhelmed because they make it more difficult than it needs to be in their own minds. So that's a great point that you bring up, and I see that a lot. And then when I share, I often work with clients. One of the things that I do is content strategy plans. So I will work with the client, and we will look at, we'll pick a revenue stream to play with, because each revenue stream needs its own plan. And we'll look at what they want to market for the next 90 days and really take a peek at how they're doing that. Are you blogging about it? Are you doing videos? Is everything consistent? Are we focusing on your most powerful solution? Is everything you're doing reverse engineering back to that profitable revenue stream? And if not, then we need to look at that. But there's a lot of pieces that are disconnected that people are not, I guess, being taught all of that. Or maybe if a person already knows that they have a product or a service or something really valuable to contribute to the world that's going to make a difference, they should come and talk to me, because I will be passionate about that. Because my big goal is to make the world, the planet, a better place. I'm in legacy building mode now. I'm trying to put my body of work into some different formats so that it can carry on long after I'm gone and help smaller entrepreneurs succeed from the very start. Because after 2 decades of being a student practitioner of marketing, advertising, and copywriting, I know what works and I know what doesn't work, and I know what's time tested. And so I'm really passionate about that. But that's really it. So I've got experience that spans not only all of the mediums because of the advertising agency experience, but just about every industry. And what I decided to do when I resigned from the advertising industry long ago is that I just get to choose my clients. And as long as you're really passionate about what you're doing and it's making a big difference in the world, chances are we have some things to talk about. And even if I'm not the right fit, I probably know someone who is, because believe it or not, most of those social media contacts out there I actually have connected with, even though there are thousands upon thousands of them.
I think that you touched on a thing there, and it also goes back to, I want a client that will listen, because what I've been seeing is that we all have this shiny object syndrome. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I really want Rob to help me, but then they get something in their email, or they get something over here and they say, hey Rob, what do you know about this? Dude, it's just, another one of those fly-by-nighters, or it's just you know, a carrot that someone's sticking out there to take more of your money, but they don't listen, and then they
Well,
buy it.
that's deep listening is critical, and I think something else that's critical is as much as I want to help everyone, I cannot help everyone. And I'm trying to figure out ways to leverage that. That's why I have offerings that kind of meet people where they are. That's why I've got the self-study, and then there's the one-on-one work with me, and then there's all kinds of free things on my blog. And honestly, a self-starter can get so much out of that. So that makes me feel good about having to put up some of these red velvet ropes. And at the same time, if a person isn't ready to invest in their business, if they're looking at me as an expense rather than an investment, then right there, we're not a good fit. Because right now, on average, if you're working with me one-on-one, you're looking at a minimum of $1,000 a month investment, depending on what we co-create. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do everything under the sun for that, but I'm just saying as a standard, that's what people can expect. And my other packages are typically at about a $5,000 price point. So a content strategy plan for 90 days that maps out your most powerful solutions into profitable revenue streams and the content that you're going to use to promote, that's going to be about a $5,000 investment. Same with the web copy and strategy. And then I have, you know, the Manyon Marketing Web Makeover that's $1,000 as well. And I review their whole site and their web copy for them and even rewrite their headlines. Because as we know, that's the #1 most read part of all, you know, content, and people miss the mark all the time. So I don't want it to be about the money, and that's one of the hardest things for me because I'm really about being of service. But these are the boundaries and the guidelines that I have to put in place because the truth is, it's me taking care of me. So booking this business and actually being able to get the fees that I am worth because I deliver so much value is really important. Is that your grandchild that I heard?
Yes, he is.
Yay!
Yeah, he's going to interrupt the interview, but
That's okay. That's awesome. I'm like, I want to see him.
Hey, Blaze, come here. Oh, no, he's going to be shy.
Okay.
Come on, Blaze. He'll get here.
I thought I heard him. Well, hey, it's not an interruption to me. You heard my leaf blowers going. They were here, so.
Say hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Or not.
He's like, who's that?
Shoes on. That's Lisa. So, there you go.
Awesome. Well, this has been fun. I'm glad that we could have this casual conversation and catch up. I'm looking forward to diving in and reading your book. Thank you again for sending that. And if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. I think, you know, always open to support.
And you know, if anybody's out there listening, and I know a few of you are, because I see the numbers. You know, leave some comments. You know, say how much you valued Lisa's, you know, being on this interview. And you know, if you guys want, we'll bring her back. We can talk more about integrity and marketing and all the different elements that she adds to a client package. So visit her website. You said it's rightoncreative.com. You know, go friend request her. Well, I think she's at her limit, but you can follow her on Facebook, on Twitter, and LinkedIn, and or poke around on her Pinterest that she doesn't do much on, or send her, you know, look at her creepy pictures or selfies on Instagram. Oh, she doesn't do that either.
No selfies.
So. You know, thank everyone for coming on and watching, and I will see you guys later.
You know, condo. Here I am. This is the office. I have a Kandinsky print sticking out of my head. I just recently had been sending some messages out to the Right On community, and someone said, "What's that print behind you?" They sent me a message, and they were talking about how I should, you know, stage the office better. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to take the picture down just because it's sticking out of the back of my head. this is my office, this is who I am, this is where I work, this is not a formal studio. If I wanted to work in a formal studio, I would go work in a formal studio. I like to work in the comfort of my home, surrounded by the things that I love in my home office. And I've created this lifestyle business this way by design. It's not an accident that I'm doing this. So I feel really, really blessed to be able to do what I do from, and connect with people. Not only am I doing really great work in the local community, but also globally. And it's fantastic. I had a conversation with one of my friends and colleagues who's a great PR person who's living in Serbia and doing really cool stuff there now and doing global work. And it's just, to me, amazing how we can bring it all together and we can do what we want to do on our own terms, really help people. And I don't know, I'm just pretty excited about it myself.
Let's talk about evolution, when it comes to a business, because you started out doing more press releases, doing more publicity, and now you're doing this whole, integrity thing, which is really helping clients get a better picture of who they are and how they want to approach things. How long did that evolution, that transformation go? And when did you say, you know what, I don't want to do this. I don't want to offer this anymore because, it's not you, or it's not profitable, or it's not something that clients really want anymore?
Sure. So first of all, I love that you use the word evolution because I'm all about evolving. One of my pet peeves is this whole reinvention kick where people are reinventing themselves every other day and blowing up their brand and starting something new because they don't have the foresight and strategy to actually plan something that will have long-standing legs, and actually succeed. So interestingly enough, I didn't actually start out with a PR before we connected. I was doing planning. That was my big thing. So marketing plans and strategy, right? But when I first started Right On Creative, what I wanted to do, I resigned from an advertising agency and I wanted to just focus on writing. And I decided I was not going to do any more marketing and advertising that much. I was just going to focus on the writing piece, although we know that's part of it. And I was going to do articles for, feature magazines. And then what happened was people wanted me to start my own agency, and I didn't want to do the buyout. I had the 2-year non-compete. And so I started studying copywriting, long direct response copywriting. I'd already been doing copywriting in the agency arena, doing radio and television spots and all that stuff. So everything kind of started evolving, and I was really good at PR and getting press. So I started using that as a lead-in and realized the course correction for me was people weren't ready for it, right? They really weren't ready to get the PR they needed until their marketing message was super solid and until they had a really good plan and strategy in place. And I also dug in and looked at it and thought, what do I love so much about press releases? Because I had people say, Lisa, press releases are boring. Why are you excited about them? And so when I dug deeper, and I think we all have to do this to look at why we do what we do and course correct, it was the transformational piece that I loved, working one-on-one with people and pulling out those really cool newsworthy things that made their light shine so brightly that they had never seen themselves in that context before. So it was a lot of fun, but what was happening is people were not really ready for the PR that I could get them. So for example, their websites were up, but really scary and not a clear strategy. So then I shifted and course corrected to focusing on the web copy. And now here's the interesting thing too. These are changes that I made on the exterior on my website. So I think it's important for people to realize that just because things are one way on the website doesn't mean that that's everything that a person can offer. So you mentioned that I've done a lot of things, and I have. And actually, when I first started Right On Creative, I was teaching 4 core components. I was teaching copy and messaging, planning and strategy, publicity and PR, and I was also, working with some of the small business development centers and put together a series of training for them in all of those arenas. So I can speak to the 4 core components, and each of them have multiple components that it takes for businesses to succeed. But what I found is, and this is kind of interesting because I'm playing with this, I'm glad we're having this conversation, is that most of the coaches out there are saying you have to have one thing that you talk about, one specific entry point. Well, even when I was talking about any of those other things, the core of everything and the heart of everything is the messaging. And I knew that. That's always been the case. Once you have your message down, you will be able to speak to whomever you need to. And there's two things that are never, ever going to go out of style. It's your marketing message and it's your strategy. Doesn't matter what changes in technology. It doesn't matter what changes in the brick and mortar world. You have to have both of those down. So the reason I share that is that with those two foundational pieces being really, really crucial, I learned that if you don't have your marketing message dialed in, you can have the very best strategy in the world and people get to your website or wherever they're going and you're not connecting. And then everyone was coming to me and saying, Lisa, we've tried this problem, agitate, and solve approach for copywriting. It's not working. And I just listened. I really listened intently. And what I realized, it's actually funny. This is a cool thing. I named my formula, finally named it. I hadn't named it. I'd just been doing it like instinctively, working with people and helping them course correct and saying, let's not focus on the pain points. Let's look at the passion points. Let's figure out how you really want to be of service. Let's revamp all this. So I did that. And then I named my formula when I wrote an article. I was featured on the cover of a magazine and had to write my backstory. And as soon as I realized within writing that article what the framework of my formula was, which is really basically just a framework because it isn't cookie cutter or paint by numbers. And so I wrote down the challenge, solution, and invitation, and at this light bulb moment went off for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I've been doing all along. And as soon as I named it, it took on a life of its own. And I just continued to be interviewed by Inc. magazine and all of these other places. And sorry, a little distracted. Now the yard guys are here with the leaf blower right out the window. I'm like, nice. One of the joys of working from home. So I know that evolution sounds a little crazy, but it was really just really deeply listening to what my ideal clients needed and course correcting to best serve them. And interestingly enough, now you do go to my site and you learn about my how to create marketing messages with integrity philosophy and my copywriting action plan and all of that. And I still have my lead-ins as web copy and strategy and content strategy plans, which is still very true. And people are coming to me for a lot of other things. I do private one-on-one consulting and help small businesses and businesses across the globe with a lot of that too. But if we list everything on our websites, people get overwhelmed and a confused mind says no. So I educate people when they become a member of the Right On Creative community about some of these other things. And I encourage them to send me emails to ask me questions and to find out what their challenges are so we can either co-create a plan for them or send them to the right person to help.
And I think that's very, important because we can't service our clients 100%. I mean, we would like to, but I have strengths, I have weaknesses. And if I say to somebody, you know what, yeah, I can handle that whole project, and then it fails, I've lost my integrity. They no longer trust me for anything else. But if I say, you know what, I'm very good at SEO, I can help you with that. I can even help you with some of your content writing. But Lisa can really do wonders for your copywriting, or she can do this, this, and this. The client is going to say, wow, okay, yeah, why don't we just split it out and work that way? I think, clients don't, in their mind, they have a picture of what maybe they want to accomplish, and you're there to help them achieve that. Sometimes you have to educate them on why their picture is a little distorted, or maybe it's not right, or it's, too expensive. And I don't like to say that, people don't have, $1 million that they want to spend. I wish they did. I wouldn't work so hard. But the majority of my clients, they have a lot of things that they want to have done, and I can't do everything. And I would rather field it to the people that can do it, so that my clients are, getting a more well-rounded response, or even, more sales coming in.
Well, and I think it's important too that we understand where our specific zone of genius is, right? Where we really shine and the best job that we do for our clients, and then let them know I mean, I think it's a disservice if we try to do things we're not that great at, right? So we want our clients to succeed, and it's a disservice if we don't share. And some people might think that it's strange that you and I are having this conversation because you do some copy, right? And some of our offerings are very complementary and similar, but we have different approaches, and so there's room for everything. And also, it feeds right back into the collaboration economy. I don't have that scarcity mentality thinking that there's not enough to go around, because I know there is. And I also know that I'm not the right fit for everyone. I mean, I tend to work with a lot of, I call them mission-driven entrepreneurs. They're authors and speakers and teachers and corporate leaders and healers and light workers and artists. So seemingly have nothing in common, but the common thread is they have a very big mission in the world. And they're struggling to turn it into a palatable marketing message because a lot of the techniques that have been taught just totally turn them off. And the other thing is, their magic is making their magic. It's not marketing their magic. And so I think that's also something that's important to talk about, because when you start a business and you're passionate about it, that's great. And you're there to share your magic with the world. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of other hats to wear. Unless you can hire a full-on PR or marketing firm or whatever to help you with that, you're going to find that it becomes a little bit overwhelming. So they do need the right support. And very rarely do they find a one-stop shop, because each person has their own expertise.
But I also want people to realize that they need to be their authentic self. And what I mean by that is that if anybody who's ever read my books, you'll see that I don't write in proper English. And in fact, every time I blog, or if I write anything anywhere, even articles for magazines, none of my writings are proper. And it probably will make the grammar Nazis, come down and hunt me. But that is who I am. I write the way I talk. That is my authentic self. And I had a teacher who got one of my books, and she says, "This book is so wonderful." She says, I knew you in grade school when your writing was atrocious, and now look at you." And I'm like, yeah, my writing's still atrocious, but I'm glad you bought my book.
Oh, that's great though. But here's the thing, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because of course, that I'm not a complete grammar Nazi, because being a copywriter, you have to know the rules and then know how to break them. And oftentimes I will have people say to me, "Oh, that's not proper English," when I'm writing content. And here's the thing, when you're connecting with people, now I don't want to completely disregard the rules of the English language, because I have a deep respect for that. And at the same time, writing like we speak is natural, and it connects with people. And if we are writing, trying to write web content that reads like a white paper or a dissertation, we're not going to connect with clients. We're not going to, build those relationships that are going to lead to the sale. So there's a fine line there that we need to play with. And I think you're a little bit hard on yourself. I really do.
I learned copywriting from some of the masters, 20 some years ago. And I started using a lot of that copy in my cleaning business, which, and if we go back to the evolution of my own copy, I used to write these 6-page sales letters and get them out there. And my carpet cleaning, business would, the phones would be ringing. "Hey, I got your letter." Who the hell sends a 6-page sales letter for carpet cleaning services? I really need your service, because, if anybody can do that, you can really make my carpets shine. And I'm like, all right, whatever. But what really got my writing, or even my sales, to go higher was taking that 6-page sales letter, which I thought was brilliant, that told people everything they ever wanted to know about carpet cleaning, and bringing it down to a 2-page letter, front and back, that just told them about how they can trust me. And when I sent that letter out, my sales shot up. I mean, we sent out this letter, that what I call a reactivation letter, to 200 of our past clients. And we sent it out, and within 2 days, we had we had booked over $5,000 worth of sales off a $200 sales letter. And within that whole month, I think we ended up doing over $20,000 in sales off of a $200 sales letter. And that letter alone, when I submitted it to a marketing contest, I actually won the contest, which was kind of cool.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
that's
cool.
what convinced me that trust-based selling, at least on my part, was, kind of where it was at. I mean, because without that trust, people aren't going to shell out their hard-earned dollars to buy from you. And
well, it's true. And direct mail definitely works. I know that for a fact. I've helped some different nonprofits increase their giving campaigns exponentially within a 90-day period after doing mailings. It's really incredible. And I love that you brought up the contest that you won, because that reminds me of kind of back in the day when I went through, and we've studied with some of the same people. I went through the Glazer Kennedy Creating Copy That Sells course many years ago. I think it was probably at least 10 years ago, I would guess. And it was really funny because it was a great training, sped through that really quickly. And I was always thinking about PR angles, because that's when I was really big into the entry point of the PR, and found out that I was the first professional copywriter in the state of Idaho to create or to go through that certification. So I created a press release, garnered ink in one of the papers in Idaho, and got some online play. And then Bill Glazer actually used it as a sales piece in his direct mail piece for promoting the program. So not only did I get a bunch of publicity from it, I got some business from it, and I got business once he did the mailing from it as well. So that's funny, just kind of reminiscing about back in the day and how you can leverage things. And it all comes back down to that content and people trusting what you say and believing in what you do. I mean, that wasn't a small thing back then. So that was pretty cool. And still people are talking about that, which I think is pretty interesting, because that was a long time ago.
How are you leveraging social media to help your business? Because I've written books and people seem to like them, and that's great, but the social media is changing constantly, and and as much as I'm a proponent of social media, I also see that with 1.33 billion people using Facebook, it can be daunting. And also people are going to say, you know what, I just feel like it's oversaturating my mental capacity to try to catch up with everybody on Facebook. So, how do you try to, influence your customers to use that medium?
Well, I don't know that I actually try to influence them in that arena. That's an interesting question. They see what I'm doing and immediately think that I'm an expert, and I'm not. I know a lot about it because I've had to learn about it to manage it for my business, but it doesn't mean that I really want to manage it for other businesses. There are a couple of clients that I do help with their strategy and helping them putting together some content and some things like that for that. And that can be a part of a content strategy plan if that's what people want to focus on. I don't necessarily want to manage it for people per se, but I've found for my own personal business that it's fantastic. I mean, when I do a speaking gig, people start following me on Facebook. I have close to the $5,000 friend, or $5,000, thinking about my package prices, right? No, the 5,000 friends that you can have, plus over 6,000 people, I think, following me on my personal profile. And then my business page, there's only, I think, maybe 2,500 people there. And I have, I don't know, I think it's close to 8,000 people following me on Twitter or something like that. And LinkedIn, I've got a ton of contacts there. But here's the thing. Well, and there's also, I've got some Pinterest boards, but I just play around on there. I'm not really strategic on Pinterest. So full disclosure there. And also I've got an Instagram account, which I'm not leveraging for business at all. I'm posting photos and that's it. And it's no filters, no selfies. I call myself an Instagram rebel. Because honestly, if I were to try and keep up with all of it, I would be overwhelmed. But what I find is Twitter is fantastic. I participate in tweet chats every week with the Women Speakers Association, and I'm part of their leadership team. It grows your reach and influence very well in 140 characters or less. I've actually been booked for interviews and different things from that medium. I think it's great. And Facebook is just fun and personal, and I get to be myself. And, speaking about the creating trust, people get to know who I am. And I've had clients, people have become clients because they've seen what I'm doing out there. They like what I'm doing. They're like, I want her working in my business because she's real, she's getting results, and she's not faking it. She's just who she is. And I think that's important. It gives us a certain transparency and social proof. One time I accidentally made about $4,000 in less than a half hour on social media. Well, I posted about mapping out. It was before my rates increased, and I was doing content strategy plans at that time for the whole year for $2,000, and now it's $5,000 for 90 days. But I had posted something. I was just super excited because I'd mapped it out for a client, and they were done. They had everything they wanted to write about for the year. They had their whole plan in place. So I posted something on social media about it on Facebook, just saying I was super excited to have mapped them out and everything, and that I just had a couple. And I wasn't even trying to sell anything. I just said, I've got a couple spots left, and I'm just loving this so much. 2 people immediately sent me messages and signed up.
Incredible.
And I was like, whoa. Now that hasn't happened again, but it could. And I'm not saying that I haven't generated more than that from social media, because I have. I leverage it well, and I leverage a lot of the interviews that I am featured on today. You'll probably if you go to any of my social media platforms, you'll find something rotating. I try to rotate one of my interviews every week at least. And most recently, I was just really excited to be interviewed by John Lee Dumas on Entrepreneurs on Fire.
Nice.
Yeah, he's the nation's top podcaster, so that's pretty nice. He's got a very impressive following, so I was excited to be approached by him and to play. So.
And then you come on this show.
I know. This is an awesome show. This is actually a conversation with a colleague who I like and trust, so it's all good, And I don't do a lot of these, but here I am. So.
I've been watching some of your pictures. When you went down to San Diego and you went to some of these wineries. I mean, it looks like wine is also your passion when you're not, helping your clients.
Yes, it is. I call it entrepreneurial fuel, and I love it. It's pure art and magic. I like it a lot.
Is there one winery between where you live and in California that is better than another, or are they all kind of?
Well, it's interesting. There's over 60 wineries right around Southern Oregon, so it's probably no accident that I'm here.
There you go.
And I do have some favorites. I wouldn't say, I really enjoy all of it. I haven't had a super bad wine here at all, which is good. One of my favorites is actually the longest established winery in town. It's Weisinger's Winery, and they're really great. And some friends of mine actually are the winemaker, and his wife is a friend of mine too, which is really fantastic. And I like what they're doing a lot. And then you mentioned California, because I'm close to Napa and all that. And in Healdsburg, Rodney Strong is there, and that's a larger production facility. I normally like smaller boutique vintages. But for everyday drinking, Rodney Strong Cabernet, you can't be beat. It's really good.
Now, on your website, you're involved with the, I think it's the California Women's something or other.
Oh, yeah. I love it. So the California Women's Conference is one of the places that I spoke. I actually won the People's Choice Award by leveraging social media. So this ties back into your social media question. I had applied to speak. And of course, I didn't have a speaker's reel, but I never let any of that stop me. I like to break the rules and say, what? You're supposed to have one of those? I don't. Let me speak anyway. So that didn't fly, but I pay very close attention when I know that I'm supposed to be somewhere to share a message. And they had a social media contest, and the person who got the most engagement on their virtual stage, and I shared my how to create marketing messages with integrity philosophies and why the traditional copywriting formula isn't working with women. And of course, I put together a whole strategy so I would win, because I was strategic about it. And You leverage social media. And the cool thing about this, and this is one of my favorite stories, is that Michelle, who's the executive director and also the CEO of Women Network, called me and she said, Lisa, what is going on? You're promoting more than any of our sponsors. And I said, and she goes, we love you. I said, make no mistake, I love you too. I'm going to win this thing. And so I ended up being hired by her to help with some of the radio spots in the LA market. And I did a bunch of projects for the California Women's Conference because she saw, what I was doing, and we leveraged it via social media. So the coolest thing about all of that is I got to do what I love. I got to leverage social media. I got to speak at the California Women's Conference where Jack Canfield spoke and Ariana Huffington spoke and Lisa Nichols and all of these really well-known speakers. And so there you have it. It was really fun. And I like Michelle a lot as a person. I like what she's doing with Women's Network. And I love playing with fun things. And I also love doing things that we're not supposed to be able to do, right?
That's the whole, don't tell me I can't do it because I'll prove it to you.
Well, yeah, I've got a little bit of that going on. Just a little bit.
We have about 10 minutes left. And, so what I want to do is before we close everything up, tell people how they can get a hold of you. You do have a website and some social media, but, I know you don't take phone calls, but get them on your website and they can at least poke around.
Yeah, and so they can go to writeoncreative.com. It's WRITEONCREATIVE.com. And actually what I'd love people to do is just grab the free copywriting action plan. You do become a part of my community. You've got some emails from time to time, usually once a week. I don't do anything too outrageous. And it's really low key. I'm not promoting a lot of other people anymore because my community basically said, Lisa, we just want to hear from you. We're oversaturated with everyone else. We didn't invite you into our inbox to be promoted to about everyone else under the sun. We want to hear more from you. So that's what I've been doing. And I have on my award-winning blog, which is a part of the website, it's writeoncreative.com/blog, there's a section called the Ask Lisa section. So if people have marketing and advertising or copywriting or branding questions, they can actually submit the question and I'll blog about it on my blog and then share that out. So that's another way to connect with me. And I do actually on occasion take phone calls. I do have my 800 number listed on the website, but it was funny. I remember we were talking about strategy and you said to me, what, you don't want people calling you? I'm like, look, I can't field calls all day. I would prefer that they become a part of the community and get to know me better that way to make sure we're a good fit. That would work better for me. So it doesn't mean that I don't talk to people. I do. But I love that we got to dig in and talk about that strategy and why I do things that way. And we could look at, the difference between how we both set things up and how some of our clients have set things up.
Right. And, and these things are great. I mean, they're really helpful. The problem is that if I took phone calls every single day, and people would ask me, 1,000 different questions. And next thing I know, I'm on the phone with them for a half hour or an hour. There are certain people I have to say no. It's not that, I have nothing against them. I'm not discriminating. I would not get anything done in my business. And although I want to help everyone, I just have that tendency that dating, it's just, I know that there's certain people out there that are going to waste my time. And as much as I like to talk to people, I need to be able to figure out how I can fit, within their puzzle to best, help them. And it's not that we're all trying to, get the best ideal clients out there. I mean, that's all great and good. But I think every entrepreneur, should have, some type of criteria that tells them what they need, in a client. So, that being said, how can, and we got a few minutes. So if I was coming to you, what do you look for in a client?
Well, the biggest trait really needs to be very clear values and clarity and what their big mission is. So if a person doesn't know what they want to do, I'm not the place for them to come. If a person already knows that they have a priority around the integrity of that's going to make a difference, they should come and talk to me, because I will be passionate about that, because my big goal is to make the world, the planet a better place. You know, I'm in legacy building mode now. I'm trying to put my body of work into some different formats so that it can carry on long after I'm gone and help smaller entrepreneurs succeed from the very start. Because after 2 decades of being a student practitioner of marketing, advertising, and copywriting, I know what works and I know what doesn't work, and I know what's time tested. And so I'm really passionate about that. But that's really it. So I've got experience that spans not only all of the mediums because of the advertising agency experience, but just about every industry. And what I decided to do when I resigned from the advertising industry long ago is that I just get to choose my clients. And as long as you're really passionate about what you're doing and it's making a big difference in the world, chances are we have some things to talk about. And even if I'm not the right fit, I probably know someone who is, because believe it or not, most of those social media contacts out there I actually have connected with, even though there are thousands upon thousands of them.
You know, and you know, I think that you touched on a thing there, and you know, it also goes back to, you know, I want a client that will listen, because what I've been seeing is that we all have this shiny object syndrome. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I really want Rob to help me, but then they get something in their email or they get something over here and they say, "Hey Rob, what do you know about this?" You know, dude, it's just, you know, another one of those fly-by-nighters, or it's just a, you know, a carrot that someone's sticking out there to take more of your money. But they don't listen. And then they
Well,
buy.
that's deep listening is critical. And I think something else that's critical is as much as I want to help everyone, I cannot help everyone. And I'm trying to figure out ways to leverage that. That's why I have offerings that kind of meet people where they are. That's why I've got the self-study, and then there's the one-on-one work with me, and then there's all kinds of free things on my blog. And honestly, a self-starter can get so much out of that. So that makes me feel good about having to put up some of these red velvet ropes. And at the same time, if a person isn't ready to invest in their business, if they're looking at me as an expense rather than an investment, then right there, we're not a good fit. Because right now, on average, if you're working with me one-on-one, you're looking at a minimum of $1,000 a month investment, depending on what we co-create. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to do everything under the sun for that, but I'm just saying as a standard, that's what people can expect. And my other packages are typically at about a $5,000 price point. So a content strategy plan for 90 days that maps out your most powerful solutions into profitable revenue streams and the content that you're going to use to promote, that's going to be about a $5,000 investment. Same with the web copy and strategy. And then I have, you know, the Manyon Marketing Web Makeover that's $1,000 as well. And I review their whole site and their web copy for them and even rewrite their headlines, because as we know, that's the #1 most read part of all, you know, content, and people miss the mark all the time. So I don't want it to be about the money, and that's one of the hardest things for me, because I'm really about being of service. But these are the boundaries and the guidelines that I have to put in place, because the truth is, it's me taking care of me. So booking this business and actually being able to get the fees that I am worth, because I deliver so much value, is really important. Is that your grandchild that I heard?
Yes, he is.
Yay!
Yeah, he's going to interrupt the interview, but that's
okay. That's awesome. I'm like, I want to see him.
Hey, Blaze, come here. Oh no, he's going to be shy.
Okay.
Come on, Blaze. He'll get here.
I thought I heard him. Well, hey, it's not an interruption to me. You heard my leaf blowers going. They were here, so.
Say hi. Say hi.
Hi.
Or not.
He's like, who's that?
Put your shoes on. That's Lisa. So, there you go. You know?
Awesome. Well, this has been fun. I'm glad that we could have this casual conversation and catch up. I'm looking forward to diving in and reading your book. Thank you again for sending that. And if there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. I think, always open to support.
And if anybody's out there listening, and I know a few of you are, because I see the numbers, leave some comments. Say how much you valued Lisa's, being on this interview. And if you guys want, we'll bring her back. We can talk more about integrity and marketing and all the different elements that she adds to a client package. So visit her website. You said it's rightoncreative.com. Go friend request her. Well, I think she's at her limit, but you can follow her on Facebook, on Twitter, and LinkedIn, and or poke around on her Pinterest that she doesn't do much on, or send her, look at her creepy pictures or selfies on Instagram. Oh, she doesn't do that either.
No selfies. No.
So, thank everyone for coming on and watching, and I will see you guys later.